Greetings, salutations, respect, and love. I am Scott. You are in the Prog Corner. Today's gonna be a real good one, boys and girls. We are talking about Stephen Richard Hackett, born February 12th, 1950 in London. His early years, he had been in a bunch of different bands. Let's see, Canterbury Glass, Heel Pier, Sarah Bonde, and something called Quiet World, where he was in a band with his brother John. He had put an advertisement in the Melody Maker magazine, December 1970, and it read, "Imaginative guitarist seeks involvement with receptive musicians, determined to strive beyond existing stagnant music forms." Peter Gabriel responded to that ad, and they were obviously looking for a guitar player. Anthony Phillips had left. They were using Nick Bernard for some live shows, guitar player from the band The Farm. And Steve Hackett ended up playing his first show with Genesis January 24th, 1971 at City University. I guess Peter Gabriel told him to listen to Trespass and figure it out. The first gig apparently did not go well. Steve was thinking he was probably fired before his time in the band even begun. Thankfully, that was not the case. He is well known for being an innovator on the guitar, the tapping style, the Eddie Van Halen, really popularized. Yeah, Steve Hackett did it first. The sweep picking of, guys like Yngwie Malmsteen and their ilk. Yeah, Steve Hackett did it first. Yeah, after 6 albums with Genesis, he left the band officially October 8th, 1977. But the band had known he was going to be leaving before then while they were working on mixing Seconds Out. And he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with his bandmates in Genesis in March of 2010. And today we are going to be ranking all 28 of the Steve Hackett studio albums. Yeah, there's actually only 20 that are rock albums with new material. He has 5 classical albums. He has 1 blues album, and he's got 2 albums of old Genesis songs reworked. I'm ranking all of them. Why not? We're going to start right now at number 28. From 1994, it's The Most Unfortunate Blues with a Feeling. This album should have never happened. Avoid at all costs. I know Steve Hackett is well known for being such a versatile guy who can play in multiple different styles. Yeah, he could have left the blues alone. He's playing here with some of his 90s bandmates, Julian Kolbeck on keyboards and Hugo Degenhardt on drums. Those 2 guys had played with him for a while through the 90s. And, solid musicianship, terrible album at number 27. Yeah, one of the 5 aforementioned classical albums. This one came out in 2008, and it's called Tribute. And this is the one where it's all Steve. There's nothing else going on, no orchestration. His brother John's not hanging around playing flute anywhere. It's just him doing Segovia, doing Bach, doing Rodrigo, Barrios. There's even one Steve Hackett original piece here, but it's just him and his classical guitar. And honestly, if I'm going to listen to a classical guitar album, it's probably going to be John Williams or Julian Bream. Probably not going to be Steve. But hey, let's be honest. Steve Hackett is not just some rock guitar player, fiddling around trying to pretend he can play classical guitar. He can play classical guitar, my friends. Absolutely at number 26. From 1980, boy, oh boy, Cured made me want to retch when that thing came out after 4 really, really strong albums. The 80s dawned, and, Steve Hackett and Nick Mangus decided it was going to be a really good idea to use a Lynn drum machine here. It sounds awful. This thing sounds dated and terrible. A lot of these songs were written while he was chilling in Brazil, but there are a couple of decent songs on here. There's a almost hit called Funny Feeling. Overnight Sleeper's pretty good, but the keeper here is the Air Conditioned Nightmare. Good song, actually really good live at number 25. It's another one of the classical albums. This one from 2005, and it's Metamorpheus. This was the successor to Midsummer Night's Dream. This has got horns, and this has got strings, and this has got John Hackett playing on it. It's a nice album. It's beautiful, but It's almost like we've heard this kind of thing from Hackett before and maybe done a little bit better. It's decent. I like it. But at number 24, we're going to another classical album, but this one's a little different. This is Sketches of Satie with Steve and his brother John. Yeah, if you like Eric Satie, there's no reason why you wouldn't like this one. Steve is basically playing accompaniment, and John is really the lead guy here. So it's a weird album. It's not really a Steve Hackett album. It's a Steve and John Hackett album. I'm including it here because Prog Archives has it listed as one of Steve's albums in his discography. It's all right. I like it. But again, if you like Satie, you need to check it out. At number 23, the aforementioned Midsummer Night's Dream from 1997. This has got Roger King and John on it, along with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, and obviously it's telling the story of Shakespeare's play in a musical format. It's nice, it's pleasant, I do like it. At number 22, here's a weird one. It's called Feedback 86. Man, I don't even remember this thing dropping. It actually came out in 2000, but as the title implies, these songs were recorded in the 80s. A lot of this material apparently was supposed to be on the aborted second GTR album. You've got Brian May on the song Cassandra, which is cool. Pete Trewavas is on here. Ian Mosley's on here playing drums. The coolest thing is the Steve Hackett, Steve Howe written song called Prize Fighter, sung by Bonnie Tyler. It's kind of cool. I like it. At number 21, the first of Hackett's classical albums, Bay of Kings from 1983. This was on Charisma in the U.S., but I guess the label in the U.K. had some issues with it. I can't imagine why. He does do some remakes here. There's Horizons from Foxtrot. There's Kim from Please Don't Touch. It's weird because he lost his contract with Charisma, so he went ahead and signed with Lamborghini Records. Yeah, it's the same people that make the cars. Hey, they understand class when they see it. At number 20, the album that came out right after it, it's Till We Have Faces from 1984, and this is a weird one. This one was produced by Steve Hackett. John Aycock had produced a lot of the earlier stuff, so Steve's taking on all the production here. It's got a real world music kind of feel, a lot of Brazilian stuff going on here. Apparently it was based on a C.S. Lewis story, and I really like the Kim Poor album cover here. It's based on the song Silent Sorrows and Empty Boats from The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. You've got Ian Mosley on drums here. There's a couple of good songs on here. I do like Myopia, and I do like What's My Name. Apparently, they liked that song so much that when they reissued it, they resequenced the track listing and put that one first. At number 19, it's a recent one from 2021. It's Under a Mediterranean Sky. Yeah, this is another classical one, but it's more current. So you got Steve, you got Roger King, you got John, and Rob Townsend both on here. Some really pleasant, real beautiful stuff going on here, but the opening track, Medina, the Walled City, really dig it. Fantastic stuff. At number 18. From 1993, it's Guitar Noir, and this is where Steve decided he was going to try to shake the dust off the 80s, and it doesn't quite work. There's some real nice numbers on here. The opening track is great. Sierra Queimada, I really like that song. Vampire with a Healthy Appetite's fun, but a lot of these songs are kind of mellow and laid back. This is the 90s Steve Hackett. So you've got Hugo Degenhardt on drums and Julian Kobeck on keyboards with Nick Magnus. Good lineup, just a real uneven album. Doesn't do it for me all the way through. At number 17, one of Steve's better classical albums. It's Momentum from 1988. This was actually his 9th studio album, and it's basically just John and Steve here, but the opening track, Cavalcanti, is fantastic. Last Rites of Innocence, really cool. They do a version of Beret with that Bach piece that was made famous by Jethro Tull. Not bad, not a bad record at all. At number 16. From 2017, it's the Night Siren, boys and girls. And this is towards the, modern era, right smack dab in that, recent Steve Hackett type of stuff, and all this stuff does kind of sound similar. It even has the same type of artwork, the same font on all these recent Hackett albums. This one is cool because it's got Martian Sea, El Nino, Inca Terra. I really like West to East. The lineup here is cool though. You've got Nick DiVirgilio, you've got Amanda Lehman, Roger King, John Hackett, Rob Townsend. So the musicianship here is top notch. I like a lot of these songs, but some of his other records from this era I do like a little bit better, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. But at number 15, we're going back to the 80s and Highly Strung from 1982. A real nice comeback from Cured. This one actually has Ian Mosley from Marillion on drums, so that awful drum machine's gone, and you've got even a minor hit. There was a song on here that was a hit in the UK called Cell 151. It's actually a good track. This was his last album for Charisma. They were getting tired of seeing his old bandmates selling millions and millions and millions of albums, and Steve Hackett couldn't buy a lunch in a McDonald's without people, giving him hell for why, Genesis was here and he was here. But there's some greatness on here, including Hackett to Pieces. I love that song. Camino Royale, just outstanding. John Aycock's production here, really good. Not a bad album at all. At number 14, it's Wolflight from 2015, and this might be best remembered as the final performance for Chris Squire. He performs a track on here called the Love Song to a Vampire, and you're going to see as we go through here, Steve Hackett's got a thing for vampires. I don't quite get it, but there's some other great people on here. Nick Beggs plays on the songs that Chris Squire doesn't play bass on. You've got the great Gary O'Toole on drums, Rob Townsend, Hugo Dagenhart plays on a couple songs. Oh, Earthshine's on this album too. I really like that one. Wolflight, it's a cool album. I dig it. At number 13, we're going to 2003 and To Watch the Storms. And this was an album that really brought Steve Hackett into the 21st century. He had done a really good album in 1999 that we're going to talk about, but this was one that kind of kept that momentum going. The Devil is an Englishman with Thomas Dolby's cool. The Silk Road is awesome. Is this a comeback record for him? It kind of is. You got Gary O'Toole on drums. You got Terry Gregory on bass, Rob Townsend, Roger King. Good lineup. Rebecca's on here. You've even got Ian McDonald playing sax on a couple songs. Brand New, I think, is the track he's on. Good record, highly recommended. But now things, top 12, things get really, really good here. All 12 of these are fantastic records. And next up, we're going to 2006 and Wild Orchids. This is the last album to sport a Kimpur album cover. Steve and Kim are getting divorced at this point, and there was a real acrimonious lawsuit attached to it. You got Roger King, you got John Hackett, you got Rob Townsend, of course. Nick Magnus makes his final appearance on a Steve Hackett record on the one song, Ego and Id. Gary O'Toole on drums. But I like some of these songs a lot. Dark Night in Toyland, Transylvanian Express. And this is the album with the Bob Dylan cover, which I don't really understand. The Man in the Long Black Coat. Makes no sense because Emerson, Lake and Palmer had already covered that song on In the Hot Seat, so I don't know what Hackett was thinking there. It's really the only blemish on an otherwise really good album at number 11. It's Genesis Revisited, and this is the first of two Genesis Revisited albums that Steve Hackett has done, and this one is kind of cool in that you got John Wetton, you got Paul Carrick, you got Colin Blunstone, Ian McDonald, Tony Levin, Bill Bruford, Chester Thompson. Yeah, the lineup alone is good enough. And then all these songs, all those old Genesis songs, their version of Watcher of the Skies with John Wetton singing Forget About It. Just incredible. Now we're in the top 10. And at number 10, we've got Beyond the Shrouded Horizon from 2011. I like this thing. It's got a real Middle Eastern kind of feel to it. Steve's been using a lot of world music in his records for a long, long time, ever since Till We Have Faces. But the reason that I have this ranked so high is the final track, Turn This Island Earth, written by Steve Hackett, Steve Howe, Joe Hackett, Jonathan Mover, and Jonathan King, or Roger King, rather. Who's Jonathan King? Roger King, my friends. Amanda Learman's on here. Nick Beggs is on here. Chris Squire plays on 3 tracks. Well, with the bonus, is actually plays on like 5. You got Gary O'Toole and Simon Phillips on drums. John Hackett and Rob Townsend on wind instruments. Really, really strong album. I like it a lot. But yeah, number 9 I like even better. This is one that came out right before Beyond the Shrouded Horizon, and it's Out of the Tunnel's Mouth from 2009. This was his first record that had the Inside Out Records imprint on it. We were dealing with the Kim Poor lawsuit during this time, so I guess he and Roger had to record a lot of this stuff in Roger's home studio. You've got Anthony Phillips showing up here. You got Nick Beggs. You got Chris Squire. But most importantly, you got the songs Nomads and Last Train to Istanbul. Those 2 tracks just slay. They're just amazing. I love them. At number 8, it's Genesis Revisited Part 2 from 2012. Why is this ranked higher than, Genesis Revisited Part 1? Well, in part because this is, Steve's new band. He's got a lot of great people on this one, just like the first one. You got Nad Sylvan, you got Michael Ackerfeld, Nick Kershaw, Conrad Keeley from, what band is he from? And you will know us from the Trail of Dead, my bad. Francis Donnery, Stephen Wilson's on here. Jacko Jaksic from King Crimson's on here. Roy Stalt, Steve Rothery, Simon Collins, Dave Kersner, John Wetton, Nick Beggs, Lee Pomeroy from ARW, Jeremy Stacy from King Crimson, and it's got Supper's Ready on it. What else do you need to know? At number 7, it's At the Edge of Light from 2019. This is a real good record. Of these late era Hackett records, this is one of the better ones. You've got the McBroom sisters on here. You've got Nick DiVirgilio and Simon Phillips, but this one is also notable, and it's the first one with Jonas Reingold on bass. He'd been in the touring band for a little while. Now he's finally getting his turn to be on a Hackett record. You got Roger King, John Hackett, Rob Townsend, and Benedict Fenner. He's been actually a big part of the Hackett sound over the last 10 years. I wanted to give him a shout out. This album is ranked so high because of some really, really good tracks. Under the Eye of the Sun, fantastic. The Golden Wings. And then towards the end of the album, you have Descent and Conflict. Great stuff. I really, really like it. At number 6, it's his most recent record from 2021, Surrender of Silence. I really, really liked this when it came out. I still do. It's got a lot of really, really good stuff on it. Relaxation music for Sharks, Fox's Tango, Shanghai to Samarkand. I love these songs. There's so much variety. There's so many different kinds of music. And when Steve Hackett puts all these different influences in one album, I'm usually really, really excited. And Surrender of Silence is no exception. Strong album from start to finish. You have Phil Earhart, you have Nick DiVirgilio. You have no reason not to check out Surrender of Silence. At number 5, it's Defector from 1980. This is John Aycock produced this, and this is where you had the classic Hackett touring band when it really looked like Steve Hackett was going to kind of take over the world, with Pete Hicks singing, Nick Magnus on keyboards, John Hackett, John Shear on drums, and Dick Cadbury on bass. You know this album. It's got the Steps on it. What a great song. Slogans, Jacuzzi. It's just solid from start to finish. Number 5 feels a little low, but when you look at the top 5, you'll understand why. At number 4, we're going to 1999 and Darktown. Yeah, that might be a little bit of a surprise for some of you people, but this was the record that Steve Hackett needed to release after the 90s were just a real dark time, and the 80s weren't a whole lot better for him. This was the album that really pointed the way to the future. It's a darker record. There's some industrial kind of feelings going on here, but Inside Out did pick this up, even though they hadn't signed Hackett yet. You got Julian Kolbeck and Hugo Degenhardt, Aaron Friedman, Roger King, John Hackett, and even Ian McDonald comes back on here. But man, why is this album ranked so high? Well, just listen to that first track of Mega Metallicus. Oh, it's so good, man. Twice Around the Sun, Man Overboard. Just a great, great album from start to finish. Darktown. If you don't know it, you definitely need to pick it up. At number 3. My light just went out, whatever. It's Spectral Mornings from 1979. A lot of people's favorite Hackett album. I'm not going to go that far. There's 2 I like better, and you know which 2 they are. But yeah, you got Tiger Moth on here. You got Clocks on here. You got The Virgin and the Gypsy. Of course, Spectral Mornings. Just a great, great album. I love it. That classic lineup, album produced by John Aycock. And you've got, John Hackett and Nick Magnus and John Shear and Dick Cadbury. What a great, great record. But yeah, there's 2 I like better. From 1978, we're looking at the number 2 album of Hackett's solo discography, and it's Please Don't Touch. I was almost going to put this at number 1, but listening to, the first 2 Hackett albums again, I came to the conclusion that I love Please Don't Touch primarily because of emotional reasons and brings back a lot of memories, whereas the first album is empirically better, I guess. But I love Please Don't Touch, man. The album starts out, the 2 out of the first 3 songs, you got Steve Walsh singing. I love Steve Walsh's voice, but I also love Richie Havens, man. He gets a crack at a couple of vocal turns on this thing. It's a fantastic record. It's kind of, a bunch of songs that don't necessarily fit real great together at times, but I love its, uneven nature and just how, it just really feels like just a whole bunch of ideas on a platter and it's just exploding all over. I just love it. Fantastic. Narnia, great song. Icarus Ascending, Racing Inna, forget about it. But that leads us to the one and only, and you know what it is. That's why it's over my shoulder right here, man. It's Voyage of the Acolyte from 1975. His best album, I hate to say it. I sure wish I could have, plummeted for another one. It's really boring to have the one record that he did while he was still a member of Genesis be on the top of the list. But come on, you've got Michael Rutherford on here. You've got Phil Collins on here. You've got Percy Jones on here, and then you got the songs like Ace of Wands, Star of Sirius, Shadow the Hierophant. Yeah, Voyage of the Acolyte's pretty much perfect. Yeah, it's a whole idea, the tarot cards and stuff, but it's got that amazing Kim Poor album cover. It's got greatness all the way baked through it from start to finish. There's a reason why people refer to it as the Lost Genesis album. Well, I'm not willing to go that far, but it is incredible, and I love it. And I love Steve Hackett so much, and you guys are the absolute best. Thank you for hanging out, and hopefully I will see you guys very, very soon. Anyway, that was my wrap up. Have a great day. Peace in the Middle East, and God save the King. And Steve Hackett. Yes, sir.